When was Jesus born? I'm Jeff Groh, and this is Jesus and Cosmology. It turns out that in answering this question, I'm going to use a fair amount of mathematics. The ultimate answer to the question of when Jesus was born is no one really knows. So one solution to this problem could be attained by just typing the question into a search prompt. Was Jesus born? And it says here, the exact date and year of Jesus' birth are not recorded in historical sources or the Gospels. Most biblical scholars and ancient historians estimate his birth occurred between 6 and 4 BC based on the reign of Herod the Great, who died in 4 BC. Well, does that settle it? Anything? Not really. This question arose in my mind from content of the book The Portent, which is a fictional novel by Michael S. Heiser. Michael S. Heiser is an expert in ancient Hebrew. As you can see, on page 305 of The Portent, it claims that Jesus was born just after sunset, September 11th, 3 BC. Is it true? Was Jesus born on September 11th, 3 BC? And how can that be true if Herod died in 4 BC? All will be revealed. On page 300, the novel quotes Revelation chapter 12. I suppose if we are going to look at Revelation chapter 12, we should actually look in the Bible at Revelation chapter 12. Here you can see it begins, a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon at her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. And she was with child, and she cried out, being in labor and in pain, to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his heads were 7 diadems, and his tail swept away a third of the stars of heaven, and threw them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she gave birth, he might devour her child. And she gave birth to a son, a male child, who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to God and to his throne. Then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared by God, so that there she would be nourished for 1,260 days. The claim in Michael Heiser's book is that when it refers to signs in the heavens, it literally means signs in the heavens, and the woman is the constellation Virgo. And being clothed with the sun means the sun is in the constellation Virgo. And when it says the moon is at her feet, it literally means the moon is at the feet of the constellation Virgo. It is further claimed on page 306 that not only is the sun in the constellation Virgo and the moon at her feet, but also the planet Jupiter is almost exactly in conjunction with the star Regulus. The implication being that Jupiter is the king of the planets and Regulus is the king of the stars, and a conjunction of the two is indicative of the birth of a king, or perhaps the King of Kings. But how can all of this be reconciled with the fact that Herod died in 4 BC? There's an answer. Here, towards the bottom of the page, 308 in the book Portent, it points out that Herod's death was recorded by a political calendar in 4 BC, but by Jewish religious calendars, it's early 1 BC. So a Jew could be looking at a date for Herod in one calendar and talk about it in relation to another calendar.
In other words, when Herod died depends upon which calendar Josephus happened to be using, and there is some question as to which of those calendars he actually used. We don't know. So, when was Jesus born? Was he born at the conjunction of Jupiter and Regulus, when the sun was in Virgo and the moon was at her feet? There's a date when that sequence of events actually happened. It happened on September 11th, 3 BC. How can I check that?
One could check a standard reference on numerical analysis, like this, or even this.
Writing a program using techniques from numerical analysis to very, very accurately model the motions of the various planets, the sun, the stars, in the ecliptic plane would require a great deal of effort, a lot of effort. It would probably take me months to make sure that it was all just right. However, there is an intriguing possible alternative. Why not use an artificial intelligence program to write the program for me? That's the tack I took.
I asked Claude, the artificial intelligence made by Anthropic, to create this app for me. In particular, I said, Claude, can you create an app that takes as input a date and time and coordinates on the Earth and produce an image of the ecliptic with the constellations of the zodiac and the planets and major stars? To which Claude said, sure, here you go. Let's see. Claude created this app. Here's your ecliptic sky chart. It computes real astronomical positions using standard orbital mechanics. Problem being, it didn't go back far enough. It didn't go to dates in the BCE or BC era. So I needed Claude to work a little bit more, and I asked, thank you, Claude, can the above app be extended to at least 10 BCE? And so, sure. Claude points out the main limitation for ancient dates is that the simple linear orbital elements break down far from J2000. I'll upgrade to the VSOP 87 truncated series for the planets, which is valid from about 2000 BCE to about 3000 CE. Use higher order polynomial terms for the moon. Handle the proleptic Julian calendar for dates before 1582. And Claude goes on, but then the app just didn't work. So I had Claude debug the app. The bugs were clear. The previous widget had corrupted Unicode characters in the VSOP 87 coefficient arrays. Okay. Very nice. Well done, Claude. Can you add stick figures for the constellations? Make sure that the image is as viewed from the appropriate hemisphere. And so I'm not so sure about these stick figures. They look a little weird. But I said, thank you, Claude. Please label the stars that lie near the ecliptic. Also, the stick figures are not close to anything standard. Can you make the figures look like those that I might find in a star chart? And so Claude tried again. Made me another one. Claude, thank you for all of your hard work. I find some inaccuracies in the above. In particular, the app contradicts certain historical facts. I checked this. This is something that I would do on a program that I would write if I were using differential equations to model the positions of the planets, I would have to check historical data about known positions of the planets relative to the stars. A great way to do this is the conjunction between Jupiter and Regulus. There are many known dates where Jupiter and Regulus were in conjunction, and these can all be checked. And so I said, on September 13th, 3 BC, Jupiter was conjoined with Regulus. This does not occur in the app. The same is true for February 17th, 2 BC and May 8th, 2 BC, which happened because of the retrograde motion of Jupiter during that time frame. There were 3 conjunctions that happened in close proximity to each other. I said, we should expect a conjunction of Regulus and Jupiter on those dates. The app has them far apart. Can you check the app for accuracy and make any necessary corrections? And of course, Claude did. He says, what was wrong? VSOP 87 outputs planetary positions in the ecliptic of date, a coordinate frame that precesses the Earth's wobbling axis at 50.3 arc seconds per year. Aha! Thank you, Claude. It appears that the Sun is in Gemini on the 1st of September in 3 BC. In the new app, is this supposed to happen? Shouldn't the Sun be in Virgo on the 1st of September 3 BC? Aha! Found it. The precession had a sign error. So Claude fixed the error, but he fixed it with a sign error, and he's now discovered the sign error, so we should be good to go. There were actually 2 distinct bugs stacked on top of each other, bug 1 and bug 2, the one I got. Claude, you have done a good job so far. I would like to work on the user interface now. It would be nice to have a BCE CE selector pre-selected to CE. The initial date should be 1 Jan 2026, the 1st of January 2026. The starting latitude and longitude should be these given values, which corresponds to Bethlehem. And so there's one more modification that I would like. I would like to be able to zoom in. So perhaps a zoom slider would be appropriate in this case. Perhaps vertical and horizontal scroll bars may be needed. If you have better suggestions, then please let me know. I would like to be able to zoom in using my touch screen as well. Aha, so here's our app. And I said, thank you, Claude. And he said, I'm welcome. So let's see if we can get this app to run for us. Let's put it on BCE. And we'll change this to 3 BCE. And which month? We're going to go to September 11th. And I'm not going to mess around with the hours or the latitude and longitude. Those are set pretty much where I need them to be. I'm going to now render the graph. And as you can see, I can zoom in. You can see that over here, we have what is the planet Jupiter. This is the symbol for Jupiter in conjunction with the star Regulus. And here we have Virgo, the only female constellation on the ecliptic, Virgo. And it has the sun in the middle of Virgo. So Virgo is clothed with the sun, and the moon is at her feet. You can also see that according to this rendering, the planet Venus and the planet Mercury are also in Virgo at the head. And there is our confirmation of what the data said in the book Portent by Michael Heiser, checked with a computation that should be accurate over the course of 2,000 years. If I were to sit down and write the program myself, this would be a phenomenal thing to try. It would take me quite a while to write the program and to have it to vet and to validate just how accurate it needed to be in order to get results like this over the course of 2,000 years.
So when was Jesus born? The shorter answer is, I don't know. However, Michael Heiser does present an intriguing possibility. Even though history records that Herod died in 4 BC, that could be because Josephus may have been using different calendars. So it's possible that Herod died in 1 BC. Also, we have done something kind of remarkable here with the help of an artificial intelligence program called Claude. In particular, we've created an app that is able to model the planets and stars along the ecliptic over the course of a couple thousand years. The error bounds for the formulas that you use normally for approximating solutions to differential equations are usually very, very poor. The formulas that you have in your standard texts are so poor that you really can't guarantee very much accuracy at all. The only way to really validate all of those positions for the planets over the course of 2 millennia is using historical data, like the conjunction between Jupiter and Regulus over the course of many centuries. As you can see, Claude was able to give us exactly what we needed. And so it's possible that what Michael Heiser is claiming, that Jesus was born on September 11th, 3 BC, is true. But it's not really a matter of doctrine or theology. It's just an interesting possibility.